How's that? Oh, look at that. Oh boy, I forgot to turn it green. It was yellow. You see, I always thought yellow meant go, but I guess green means go, right? So, okay. All right. So hopefully all you folks out there heard what I said about the questions. Audience, you got 1 minute to ask your question, and I think you know why. Okay, good. So what I want to do first is introduce the unopposed candidates, and then they'll get up and make their statement. So one unopposed candidate is Bob Fleming. We have Margaret Carroll, and we have Tamison Helligers. The word specimen is written all over your name. Sorry about that. So the other unopposed candidate is Bill Taylor. So in a minute I'll have you guys get up and speak. Okay. But what I want to do also is introduce to you the opposed candidates. Way on the left here, over here, is Ted Briggs, running for the Board of Health. Then Matt Hagan, running for School Committee. James Forkey, running for School Committee. And then right to my left, Laura Hebb, running for Selectmen. To my right, Maureen Dwinell, running for Selectmen. James Ferenczi, running for School Committee. Farrell Tolley, running for Board of Health. And Ken Glowacki, trustee for 2 years. Okay. So that's the introductions. So for those of you who are running unopposed, why don't you get up, one of you, Bob Fleming, whomever wants to get up and start, and then we'll go from there. So you could use that microphone right there. That's fine.
Good evening. Is this on? Oh. Oh, yeah, that seems better.
It's on now.
Good evening. My name is Bob Fleming. I've served on the Trust Fund Commission for the last 2 years, and prior to that, I've served in some capacity in the town of Upton, elected or appointed for 40 years. And it's my intent to continue to serve the community in some capacity. As far as the Trust Fund Commission, it's our obligation to assure that the asset allocations are in place and that the town's returns on its trusts and its funds are where they should be. Obviously, we're having a tough time right now, but even in spite of that, the town's in very good shape as far as the trust. So, again, I'm opposed. If you have any questions, feel free, but I get it. So, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Hey, Margaret?
Hi, I'm Margaret Carroll, and the mic was put it tight, so it's hard for everyone else. I am running for my 4th 5-year term on the planning board. I've been up since 2000. I served on Conservation Commission and Community Preservation Committee, as well as Planning Board. The Planning Board, our role is to review all proposed residential, commercial, municipal development to make sure that they're planned along the lines of town bylaws, and review bylaws to make sure, zoning bylaws especially, to make sure that they are continuing to do what we want to do to protect the safety and the property values of current and future residents. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bill?
Good evening. My name's Bill Taylor, and I'm running unopposed for as Board of Assessors. It's the 3rd term on the board. Our role is to oversee the work of the firm that actually does the valuation.
He's not there. Take right off. Yeah.
Kelly McCurris and Jim Earl, and with the very able, valuable help of our Assistant Assessor, Tracy Tardy, who really does all of the work. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Thompson?
I'm Tamsin Johnson Helligers. I wanted to be able to introduce myself so that you can see that wacko name next to a face. I'm usually called Tam Johnson. I grew up in this town. Although that I've only been back for about 11 years, I raised my family in Norwood. I'm back in the family home that's been in our family for 13 generations. But I am excited to hold my first government position at the library. Excited.
So now I think we're going to stage.
Library in town. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you very much for those quick introductions. That's very good. So, yes.
They can't get in the video. I don't know if you want to bring that to the attention of the box.
Okay, those of you up in the box, did you hear that?
We did, and we have 11 people on, so I'm not quite sure what is going on, why they can't get through.
So some people are getting through, so, but thank you, Mr. Flaherty, for letting us know that. Okay, good. So why don't we do this? Ken, since you're up here by yourself, I'll have you go first for the 3-minute opening statements, then we'll go from there, so.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Am I on? Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
The mic's not on. Mic's not on.
Hello?
Yeah, why don't you try that one?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay,
My name is Ken Glowacki. I'm running for the 2-year term for the Trust Fund Commission. Up until
it's not working. Is the microphone person here?
The microphone is fine.
Okay, try now.
Good evening.
That's better, that's better. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My name is Ken Glowacki. I am running for the 2-year term for the Trust Fund Commission. Up till 2 years ago, I was the elected treasurer-collector. I held that position for 23 years. And during those 23 years, I was a member of the Trust Fund Commission, so I understand what the Trust Fund Commission's responsibilities are and what we do. And also, probably more than 50% of the time, I was the chairman of that committee. I have been retired for 2 years. I am rested, and I'm ready to go and put my input back into the commission. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, good. So at this point now we'll have hear from the Board of Health candidates, and the first to speak will be Farrell Jolly.
Okay.
No.
Can everybody hear me?
No.
All right. My name is Farrell Jolly. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm running for Board of Health here in Upton, and I am Upton resident with my husband Quinn. We live here, love our neighborhood. We've been living in Upton since 2017. And I'm also a nurse practitioner. I've been in healthcare for 15 years. I'm a practicing nurse practitioner right now in the local area. And I think through the pandemic and everything that we've all been through, I really saw a need to start being able to give back to the community that we're in here, that we love. And so I saw an opportunity to help out with the bringing healthcare experience, and I think a fresh perspective to the board. And I'm open to learning because I know that I would be learning a lot. The board has a wide scope. So I would look forward to the mentorship of those on the board and certainly the community in my endeavors there. So thank you so much, and I appreciate your vote.
Okay, thank you, Farrell. Ted, you're up next. You have 3 minutes.
Okay.
There you go.
Ted Briggs running for the Board of Health. I am currently honored as the chairman. The Board of Health is responsible for a lot of things. We oversee all the septic designs, all the well permits, all the food permits in town, which we've had quite a few because of food trucks going to the brewery. We had a problem with a septic design for the new 55 and over that's going on Velocity, and the board and the engineer were not happy with it. So what we did was we turned it over to the state, which did approve it. And so what we did was we changed our bylaws so that any septic system that is in the town of Upton now has to be approved at 110 gallons per bedroom, whether it's senior, condo, multi-dwelling, or single residence. We also do water control at the town beach during the summer. Water's tested once a week. If there's any problem, we retest it. And if we have to, we close the beach for the time that it needs to be done. We have had our food inspector resign to retire, and we did, through a state grant, hire 2 food inspectors along with 3 or 4 other towns in the area. And they are also doing house inspections, and they are going to start doing septic designs. And with the grant, it didn't cost the town any money. The town also ran, through the Board of Health, we ran a number of clinics for the virus. I volunteered at most of them. We did have approximately 1,800 people who were vaccinated through this project. And right now there's about 1,350 cases that have been in Upton since it started. It's starting to uptick a little bit. Right now, we went from 2.5% to 7.6%, but so didn't the rest of the area. And I would appreciate it if you would keep me on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. So next we'll hear from the 3 candidates for school committee, and the first to speak will be James Currency. James.
So my wife and our son, we moved out here in 2018 and couldn't have made a better choice. So we really love it. I wanted to be part of keeping the community strong and building it into the future. And I decided that it was time to start volunteering. Might have seen me around town picking up garbage and painting lockers. I'm starting to get into a lot of that stuff, and I thought I would also put my name in for the school committee. My work experience, even though I don't have any political experience, my work experience has been quite extensive, especially with leading teams, bringing people together, and closing gaps. I do a lot of statistical analysis, and I believe that the value I can bring, and you'll hear that word a lot out of me tonight, is value and balance. Is some leadership to the school committee, and looking forward to hopefully getting the support and being a part of the future.
Thank you very much, Jim. Okay, next to speak will be Matthew Hagan.
Hello, my name is Matt Hagan. I'm a candidate for the school committee. I'm a father of 2 young children in town and who are just beginning their journey through the school system. I'm married to a teacher and one who's lucky enough to work at Memorial Elementary School. We moved to Upton in 2014, shortly after getting married, when we were looking for a place to put down roots. And the reputation of the school district was one of the major selling points for us buying a house here. A little background about me: I grew up in Northborough, 2 towns over, and I attended public schools there from kindergarten through grade 12, graduating from Algonquin eventually. I attended college at Cornell University and received an engineering degree, and now I'm currently working as a software engineer. I coach baseball and soccer in town, so far just for my oldest, but I'm sure I'll be chasing my younger son around the soccer fields in short order. Since I've lived in town, I've watched the schools finish climbing out of the budget crunch that was brought on by the Great Recession, and make positive steps to continue providing a great, high-quality education for our children. I'm running for school committee today because I want to ensure that the schools continue on that upward trajectory, and both for my kids and for all the kids that'll be coming after them in the years to come. I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Matt. And last for the school committee, James Forkey. James?
Hi, my name is Jim Forkey. I'm running for school committee. I've got identical twins that just started preschool. I'm over at Memorial. I'm a software technical lead, an engineering manager, which means I'm extremely data-driven. I've also served on a number of boards and committees previously. And so I'd like to take you through some of the research I've done and share some of that data and identify the areas of improvement in our district. I use Grafton. I'm going to use Grafton as our benchmark because they're relatively close in demographic. So Grafton spends $3.5 thousand per student We spend 5.6, so over $2,000 more per student, a 15% difference. We have bigger classrooms than Grafton by 10%. And our performance metrics are nearly identical. So we pay significantly more for the same performance and bigger classrooms. And so I started listening to school committee meetings, and the more and more I listened, the more and more I got concerned. There were hardly, the last budget hearing, there were no questions asked, not a single one. And so I think when you ask if we are fiscally responsible, I think we're not. I think we can be significantly more responsible. And if you've ever looked at the budget online, it's very difficult to read. It's nearly impossible. It's a massive PDF with just all of the account lines. So my proposal for that is to introduce a new tool like ClearGov, which by the name Clear is inherently transparent and provides a lot of analytical tools to compare with other districts and identify areas where we overspend and underspend and can adjust our budget accordingly. The second area of improvement is student support services. This started as a person to talk to about 20 other people in the district who receive services, and they all share the same experience. It's important to note that it's not the specialists, it's the administration and process. Everybody struggles with the IEP review, transitioning from school to school. It's very complicated and it's very frustrating. 24% of our budget goes to student support services, and we have to give it more attention. Additionally, DESE gives us an accountability score of 34 and Grafton a score of 61. We're significantly behind Grafton in almost every metric, and we deserve better. If you give me the opportunity to serve on the school committee, I'll raise the bar, drive towards progress, accountability, and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Right on time. All right, so now we have the last two candidates, Board of Selectmen. First to speak will be Maureen Dwinell.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Dwinell, and I'm seeking re-election for a seat on the Board of Selectmen. I have lived in Upton for 20 years now. I have 30 years experience in government, 27 years as a treasurer collector that gives me a financial background, 6 years on a Board of Selectmen in another town, and 3 years on the Board of Selectmen in Upton. I have been on Metro West Growth Management Committee. I have joined the Southwest Area Planning Council. I was the state elected member to the Metropolitan Planning Organization. I believe I have some experience in planning. I believe and support managed growth and land preservation. I support our downtown initiative through the vision of the EDC. I have supported the community center. It joins together all age groups and provides a unique perspective on life. And I am in support of the purchase of the Mechanic Street property, saying that I don't believe that the land can support a complex of that magnitude. I am seeking your vote, and I hope to see all of you at the voting polls. Thank you.
Laura? Boy, congeniality, there we go. All right.
My name is Laura Hebb. I've lived in town for 57 years. I am a fifth generation. I'm very proud to say that. Growing up, all of my prior relatives have worked in town, so politics and town affairs have always been discussed in my house. My mother helped with the zoning. My father was both a policeman and a fireman. I grew up here. I graduated from Nipmunk. I went on to get a degree in court reporting. That gave me a very specialized and very varied background. What I learned was there's three sides to everything: his, hers, and the truth. And it usually lays in between. I became president of the Massachusetts Court Reporters, and almost immediately upon becoming president, the insurance company came after the court reporters and tried to align us with the defense bar. Court reporters are the only impartial people. I therefore wrote and passed a law preventing that. Usually a law takes 16 years in Massachusetts to be passed. I did it in 4. It was a lot of footwear, a lot of traffic, a lot of up and down, so I do understand politics in and out. I've also been very active in my national court reporting associations, traveled extensively, lobbying around the country, helping pass the same law. I have 2 boys. They both grew up in town. My oldest graduated from Valley Tech in 2019. I've always been involved. I was classroom parent. I donated my time. If anyone played baseball, you saw me, I scored. I might have coached first base. You got kids, somebody's got to do it. When they swam, I was a swim timer. When they raced motocross, I'd flag. I was part of that association as well. So I think our town is at a crossroads. I haven't held local office, but I have held office on a national basis. And like I said, a specialized performance. I think we have a new town manager coming in. I think we're facing a lot of challenges. I'd like to present some of my expertise and help get to where we're going. Thank you, and I appreciate your vote. I would appreciate your vote very much. And I'm free to answer questions at any time.
Thank you very much. Beautiful. That didn't take 30 minutes. That's great. Everybody did nice and well with the time here. So again, now we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. Just to remind you, you have a maximum of 1 minute to ask a question. What I want you to do initially is state the position in which you are asking your question to, whether it's a Board of Selectmen, School Committee, Board of Health, whatever. Then ask your question, and then they will have a chance to respond. 2 minutes for each, and then 30-second rebuttal if that's necessary. Okay, so we have 2 microphones up here. Who wants to ask the first question? Come on, folks. Oh, come on. Who wants to go first? Mr. Flaherty. Thank you, sir. Someone's got to be first.
Thank you, Mr. Yes? Okay, so it works. Mr. Moderator, I guess my question is for the selectmen candidates.
Yep.
And it would be, what is the role of the selectmen in setting the tax rate?
Okay, great. So why don't we flip-flop then this time? So Laura, why don't you respond first, and Maureen, you could respond to that. Yep.
Mr. Flaherty, did you ask the role of the selectmen in setting the tax rate?
I did.
Okay. Well, I think the selectmen's job is to oversee every position in town. The selectmen are elected by the townspeople to do their will. I do believe we have a finance committee and a budget committee and a capital planning committee. I think you have to look at the budget, and then I think the tax rate is set by state, and the overrides affect the tax rate. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding of it.
There you go. Beautiful.
The tax rate is set by the state after the selectmen approve it from the assessors to go to the state for approval. Once that's set, then the tax rate is based on the total equalized value of the town. And that's what sets the rate and the taxes in the town.
Great. Thank you. Who wants to go next?
Hi, Patrick, can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you, but I don't know if others can. It doesn't seem to be on. I don't know.
So my name is Patrick Mcinerney. My granddaughter is part of the school system. My question is directed towards the school committee candidates.
Yep. Gotcha. Yes, it is. Yeah. We can hear it up here. Go ahead.
So hopefully we don't have to go through anything like the pandemic that we went through, but certainly masking was a big issue. And I was just curious what the committee members' position would be in terms of what variables that they would look at before making the response to put masks on our children, knowing that hospitalization rates, death rates, other demographics come into play that would perhaps color that decision.
Okay, thank you. So, like with the board, why don't we go in reverse order from when we first spoke? So, Jim Forkey, if you want to go first on that one? Yep.
Hear me? Is it working? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm an engineer. I believe in science. That's for sure. I understand the frustrations a lot of parents have around masking. Well, it just got louder. And so I understand there was a lot of frustration in the community around masking, and there was a lot of frustration on the school committee because there wasn't a lot of guidance provided. So they were put in a particularly difficult spot. I think when there is guidance, it's easy to follow. When there's not, you have to figure it out. I've always been a proponent of masking. I brought mine tonight. If anyone is uncomfortable, I'm happy to wear it. I think, and I've spoken at the school committee meetings about masking because what I see as the particular cause for concern, when you have immunocompromised kids in the school district who can't be vaccinated yet, they're a minority by definition, right? They're a small subset of people. And the school committee has an obligation to listen to those people. The saying, we don't want masks, we don't want masks. There's a minority saying, we want masks. So you have to listen to both sides and make sure that you're protecting minority rights.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Jim, why don't you go next, and then go to Matt. I'm sorry, Matt. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so I also am an engineer by nature. I was inclined to follow the science on this. I believe the best thing that the school committee can do is to follow the guidance, whether that's from our local boards of health or from state or federal agencies as far as what they recommend. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner of any sort. So I would be making that decision based on the best available guidance, the best available evidence that can be provided to me, that I can go out and find myself. As a father of young children, especially my 3-year-old, I understand the difficulties in getting your kids to wear masks, getting them to wear them properly. Whether or not they're actually serving their desired purpose for, especially those younger children. They're constantly chewing on them and whatnot. So, I understand the difficulties in practically executing those orders, but it is up to us as a community to do the best we can to protect all members of the community. And for something like masks, wearing masks, that's a fairly non-invasive thing that we can do to help each other and help those that are least capable of protecting themselves.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Matt. Jim, go ahead.
I would respectfully disagree with that opinion. The problem with masking the children is going to be so profound that they're not even going to know the effects of it. They have suffered from having to do the remote learning, and now they're falling behind because they are missing out on facial and verbal conversations. I don't think anybody likes these masks, and I'm sure of that. I do understand there is a time and a place for everything, and in the beginning of the pandemic, when we certainly didn't know that much, there was a time and a place for it. I read a study not too long ago that suggested that there is no significant difference in transmission rate between masked and unmasked children. So when you're looking at the risk-reward benefit, if the mask isn't helping stop transmission, then all we have is the downside of the children wearing the masks. With that being said, I'm not a doctor either. I'm not a scientist, and I'm not going to play one. If the DESE came out and said, hey, you guys got to wear the mask, obviously we're going to follow the protocols, and we are going to wear masks. I don't think Desi did anybody any favors in this last turnaround when they said they left it up to everybody else. Should have left it up to some public health officials, if anything, and really shouldn't have left it up to the school committee to begin with. It really shouldn't have been their part.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, good. All right, next question. And again, state who it's for, which position.
I actually have a number of questions from different people that have texted me. I don't know how you want to do that.
Well,
I can start with my own.
you got 1 minute, and you're already 10 seconds in, so ask your question.
This is for the today's meeting for selectmen. So, my first question to you: what is your position on advocating for Upton's while balancing fiscal responsibility of the select?
Okay, so let's see. So Maureen, why don't you go first on that one, if you understood that? Yep.
I'm a mother that has raised 9 children, and they have all become very successful. I have 5 business owners, an executive assistant, a marketing manager, and I believe in education and providing the tools to educate our children, supporting the school. I have been involved in many children sports, coached. I'd advocate always for the children.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. I'm a mother of 2 children. My oldest graduated from Valley Tech. He went off to Ohio State pre-med, and that's amazing. Unfortunately, my youngest had cancer, and we lost him in 2017. So I fully understand an IEP. I understand the importance of education, and I understand the importance of coloring outside the lines. Because when you have a terminally ill child that cannot go to school, you need all sorts of support services. So yes, I do think, I also sell real estate, I'm a realtor. The drawer for Upton is our schools, and I think we need to maintain our schools because that is an enormous drawer. When I sell, that's the first question.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
I have a question for school committee candidates. We hear about parent voices, and how do you differentiate between parent voices and parent demands?
Okay, that's a good, okay, so parent voices versus parent demands. So let's do this. Matt, since you haven't spoken first yet, I'll have you go first this time. Okay, great.
So if I were elected to the school committee, I would make it a priority to listen to any and all voices that wish to bring concerns to me or requests. As an elected official, that is, my job is to represent the will of the people and to listen to their concerns. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily beholden to any individual person. I would hear their concerns, internalize them, if necessary, do my own research, and come to what I believe to be the best course of action to address their concerns, as best I can.
Okay, great. So, Jim, why don't you go next?
Great question. I really appreciate that one. I think the biggest difference between the parent demand and the parent voices is you're going to see the voices of the parents start to align with each other. So if you're looking out for the parents' voices, you're going to have a group of parents all voicing for one thing. A parent demanding something, probably going to be more as an individual demand. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of tough decisions that have to be made. The committee doesn't have an easy job, teachers don't have an easy job, parents don't have an easy job. So not everybody's going to like every decision, and the ones that you can't fulfill deserve a qualified, intelligent answer and reasoning on why we can't do what they're looking for.
Okay, great. Okay, Jim?
So I think this is where my engineering management experience comes into play. I have one-on-ones with all my engineers every 2 weeks, and so they'll sometimes come into my office and it'll be 30 minutes of a rant, and that's just what they're looking for. They're looking for someone to listen, to bounce ideas off of, not really looking for action, just someone to listen. And other times they come in with real concerns that require action. Sometimes you have to go up the management chain. And so differentiating between some concerns, voices, just wanting to get their opinion out there, and acting on actionable items, demands that really have to be addressed. I think that's very important when it comes to being on the school committee. I think right now the public comment section has really turned into more or less a rant for parents. I would probably move that to after presentations and give parents the real opportunity to provide information based on the presentation that was given. I would also advise that it's much like this format, where it is the ability to comment and not a Q&A, not a discussion, but their ability to actually have input post-presentation. So the school committee can actually consider their input.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next. Up back there.
Hi, my question is for the school committee members. I just wanted to know how you would handle a difference of opinion with other members on the school committee regarding any matters that may arise. I'm sure many of us have seen some of the bullying and name calling that have taken place on social media. Specifically, Forky, you've called people who don't agree with you mentally challenged, stupid, idiot, brainwashed. You also want populations segregated who are sick. How does someone who speaks like this feel that it's appropriate to represent the children and have a fair opinion on all matters? Thanks.
Okay. Typically, I would go in the order next, but since you were spoken about specifically, Jim, if you want to respond to this first.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for asking the question. Give me the opportunity to respond. So there is a significant difference between the decorum on a school committee and what's said on social media. Most of what you said is not actually true, and taken wildly out of context, which you have the privilege of doing. You can ask a question and take everything out of context. I have children who are receiving support services. I have disabled family members. So most of what you said is wildly out of context and untrue. That being said, I am very versed in what Robert's Rules of Order, which is the golden rule of decorum on school committees. I've sat on many committees and boards previously, so I fully think that I'm capable of maintaining professional decorum within a school committee.
Okay, thank you. Jim, did you want to comment at all on that? Or?
So yeah, social media probably doesn't solve anything. I think we can all agree with that. All it does is really kind of stir the pot. I haven't seen any of our problems get solved on social media yet. As part of that, and being in the committee, obviously, you have to take the comments for what they are, roll them off your back, and know what you're doing is the right thing for everybody. One of the things that I can bring to the table is, like Jim over there, I deal with people every day. Every day I'm bringing teams together, trying to get the right solution to the problem. And been pretty successful at it so far. And I know I can add value in leadership and hopefully bring us all together as a community, because if we don't start meeting in the middle somewhere, it's never going to get better.
Okay, thank you. Matt, do you want to respond?
So to address the original point, or the original question, differences of opinion are as common as people. Everyone's going to have their own opinion. I would hope to convince people through, rational argument if they disagree with me. But at the end of the day, it's a committee that votes on things, and the votes are the final say. If my side were voted down, I would respect that and move on, knowing that everyone who serves on the committee is doing so with the goal of helping the children and providing the best education and school system we can provide.
Thank you. Okay, so just want to let folks know we've had a few questions for school committee and for selectmen, but we got some folks on the end, Board of Health, Trust Fund, who just are sitting here looking beautiful, and they would probably love a question or two. So just want to throw that out there. So who wants to ask the next question?
Pam Campbell. I just have a quick question for our select.
Yep, that's fine.
So excited for you too. But my question was, I just want to have a little flavor, like what you feel like you want to do in the next 3 years, or like you get voted in. Like, what is your passion? What do you kind of help the town do? And also, we also have a problem with affordability for housing and people staying in town. Like, we have people that have to move out, so we don't have enough adequate. On how what your vision is, what you want to really do.
Vision and how to keep things affordable. Great. Thank you very much. So, Laura, you go first this time.
Thank you for the question. First off, I think I'd like to make the town information more accessible. If you look at Grafton's town site, their town administrator weekly posts what's going on every board. I know once I started getting more and more involved in politics, it's kind of hard. You have to go here, you have to go there. He does a weekly post, very succinct. You can click on links through it, and from everything from, say, the Earth Day cleanup to what the boards are doing. I'm very excited that as many people came out on the town selectmen's meeting, 166, about the Fowler and mechanic purchase. And I hope all of those people stay involved and show up at town meeting. This is your town people. You have to vote. You can't just let one or two people control. And it's been distressing over the years to see the numbers fall. I do think I know for a fact we have a housing problem. I am a realtor. I talk to many people who are selling their properties because they cannot afford the taxes. We have to be inclusive for everybody. For years, we've done a housing plan. I don't know if it's been implemented. It's been shelved. Upton, quite frankly, is ripe for the picking. We were just named one of the top towns west of Boston to move to. Our population is exploding. It's going to continue to explode. We have a chance to get the housing committee up and running again, but we need to actually implement their plan. The other thing is we're on an MBTA plan. We're going to need to, Governor Baker passed it. It's very tight housing. We may need to change some of our requirements. I see Mr. Loper looking at his clock and it's making me nervous.
Sorry. You got about 15 seconds.
Okay, well, so anyhow, but one of the big things is information and getting people involved. And I may not know everything, but I'm willing to learn. Thank you.
Thanks. Good job. Okay. Maureen.
I would like to continue our finance reserves. We have a financial policy in place that was done in July of 2020, which is building our stabilization 10% a year of the general operating budget. And we also have an annual appropriation for the capital stabilization for capital outlay. I would like to see the downtown center go forward. I would like to see the purchase of the Fowler Street and Mechanic Fowler Street area. We did appoint a affordable housing trust, which in conjunction with the town planner is putting together a plan for housing so that we keep up with our affordable housing. The requirement by the state now is for us to have in place by 2024 amendments to our zoning bylaw, which will loosen the requirements of and restrictions so that they can fit these projects in an area of 1 acre. 1 acre will have to contain 15 units, whether they be apartments, condos, townhouses, or single-family homes. And the town will have to provide 50 acres, of which 25 acres has to be one parcel, and all others have to be 5. And we would have to implement 750 units in the town. I'd like to see us work to get things managed. I do believe in managed growth, and I believe in affordable housing. Thank you.
All right, next question.
My question's for the school committee candidates. I'm going to make it a two-parter. First part, yes or no? Do you support changing the mascot of the school district? And the second part is a lot of studies in the last 10 years have shown that our teenagers should be starting school much later in the day. For those of us that were teenagers, which I think is all of us, oh, it's very hard to get up at 6 in the morning. Yet if you have small children, they're easily up at 6 in the morning. So I'm curious to hear each member's or candidate's position on rearranging the start time of our schools.
Okay, thank you. Jim, you haven't
I
been
didn't
first
hear,
for a while,
hear
so.
the first part.
Oh, the first part is about the mascot of the school, right? Yes or no for the mascot, and then school time for the teenagers. Is that pretty much it? Okay. Yep. Go ahead, Jim.
The mascot, I don't have a good answer for the mascot. I remember when I moved in 2018, we started going to MISCO, and I couldn't even figure out what the mascot was. And it took me 2 years to figure out it was supposed to be the Braves. Now, I understand there's been a lot of thought about changing the names, and I would support that, obviously, but we would have to find a name, and I haven't put a lot of thought into that. The time with the school, I'm with you 100%. It is early in the morning. For some, I've seen school districts that, when you're taking the bus before the sun is up, it makes it difficult on the children. I don't know how I could help in my scope as a committee member, but that would be certainly something I would look at and see if we can change.
Okay, thank you. Matt, why don't you go?
So to answer the mascot question first, I certainly wouldn't be opposed. It's not necessarily top of my mind, but Algonquin, where I went to high school, just recently changed their mascot. It's something that's happening these days, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. As for the school schedules, I think you make a great point that teenagers need to sleep in later. Studies have shown that is true. But the reason that the school schedule is what it is has a lot to do with more than just natural sleep patterns. It's getting the younger kids to school at a time that makes sense for parents who are working. It has to do with sports in the afternoons for the high school kids being able to play outside and stuff like that. Again, I certainly would not be opposed to studying how we could make something like that work that would have positive benefits to the academics, but there are a lot of trade-offs that come with it, and it's something that we would need to study, I think, to see how that would work.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Masking right now, I would say no.
Mascot.
Oh.
Right.
What about the mascot? What was the question related to the mascot?
Okay, whether or not we should keep the mascot.
Right, yes.
That's the question.
Sorry. As far as masking goes, I don't have, my kids are still in pre-K, I apologize. I don't have a particular strong opinion one way or the other on mascot. It's not a huge concern for me. Sorry, I totally misunderstood your question. As far as the school day goes, I think it's easy to have an opinion and it's hard to have a solution on it. I agree, as the data suggests, yes, we should do that, but there are a lot of regulations and requirements and loopholes to jump through to actually make that happen. It's easy to say, yes, let's do it, but then you have to go to the state, right? There are guidelines that say students have to be in class learning for X amount of hours, so you have to make sure that you're abiding by that, and that's going to extend the day longer, and then you have parents that get frustrated because their kids have to, they have to pick up their kids later in the day. So it's easy to have an opinion. It's difficult to have a solution. I agree with the opinion. I don't have an immediate solution.
Okay, thank you. Great. Next question.
Hi, my name's Lisa Liu. My question is for the school committee candidates. Do you have a role in deciding what is part of the student curriculum? And if so, what is your position on critical race theory being integrated into the curriculum?
Okay. Matt, why don't you go first on this one?
I think at the end of the day, the school committee does have a role in setting the general direction for the curriculum. They don't have, the intricate day-to-day or, fine-grained control, but they do ultimately have a say, yes. And I don't think critical race theory is something that, critical race theory is a legal doctrine that is taught in law schools. So no, I don't think critical race theory belongs in an elementary school or even a high school, because that is not something that is, taught. If you're using the term as more of a catch-all for diversity training or inclusion, then yes, diversity, teaching children about the intersection of race in the history of our country is definitely important and is something that should continue to be taught at all levels of schooling.
Okay, Jim, why don't you go next?
I agree with Mr. Hagan for the most part. I think the fact is our country is rooted in systemic racism, and you have to teach that to kids. I mean, it would be a disservice not to. It's unfortunate, but it's an unfortunate truth. It may be inconvenient, but the fact is racism is real. It still exists in this country today. I wish it didn't, but it does. Should we teach CRT in school? Again, like Matt said, using it as a catch-all is just something pushed from the far right. You have to teach the individual components of it, how we were racist, the history of this country. And when it comes to diversity and inclusion, absolutely. It's just been 20 years since we've made significant progress on LGBTQ rights. So yes, DEI is very, very important in the district.
Jim?
So I'm going to give a little bit of a different viewpoint on this. I do not believe the country is rooted in racism. Unless you were there when they started writing up these documents 400 years ago. I don't know how you could say that. There's a lot of people pushing a lot of theories, and I understand that you have to look at them all right? As far as the diversity and inclusion stuff, obviously diversity is very important. You want to be diverse in your community. You want to be inclusive in your community. Everybody's for that. No one wants to leave anybody out. I truly believe that. So one of the issues with some of this training that we're putting our children through is it's not all rooted in truth. It's rooted in theory. And so we're teaching it like it's true, but there's an argument for it. And I understand the argument. I understand both sides of the argument. But it doesn't make one side automatically true. One of the things that's being used in this training, from what I've read, is the teaching of one way. So you sit a child down, and I've given this example before, I'm going to give it again. You sit a student down, and for 4 days you tell them something is bad, something is bad, something is bad. You don't ever rebut that. And then on day 5, you ask the student, what do you think? What do you think the student's going to say?
Good, thank you. Right. Next question. And again, I hate to remind everybody, but boy, we got Board of Health people here, and trustees, guys, and everything. So, next question.
Fortunately, my question is for the Board of Selectmen still.
That's
okay. So, Dominique, what suggestion would you bring about to help Upton be a more inclusive community, specifically in regards to accessibility in public buildings for those who are differently abled?
Okay, great. Maureen, why don't you go first on this?
And advocate accessibility and to all the buildings and anything that they need to have information given out, a website that provides all the information that you need. I think that's very important to keep the citizenry updated on anything that's going on in town, and I support that 100%.
Okay, Laura?
Thank you. As far as meeting everyone's needs, I think a glaring example of that is the Racine building. We funded a ramp a year ago, and it has not been built. I did work in the college classroom providing captioning for deaf and hard of hearing people. I do understand ADA, and I do see that there are faults in this town that need to be addressed. Thank you.
Great. Next. Somebody over here was, go ahead.
Hi, I have a question for mostly Matt. I know that Matt, for the school committee.
Oh, school committee, right,
Yes,
okay.
sorry.
Matt,
I know you're aware that you have a conflict of interest with your wife being employed at Memorial. So my question to you is, if you're not allowed to vote on teacher contracts, on budget issues, anything that pertains to Memorial Elementary, what, in fact, are you going to be able to do to help the school committee? How useful are you going to be if you're not going to be able to vote on these issues?
Okay, thank you. So, Matt, go ahead.
Thanks for your question. I was asked about this on social media at some point in the last couple of weeks, and after that question, I reached out to the State Ethics Commission to get a clear ruling on exactly what my conflict of interest is, and to suffice it to say that it is not as broad as you're painting it. Basically, with my wife being a teacher in the school system, I am not allowed to participate in voting on the collective bargaining for the teacher contracts. That is true. I am, however, allowed to participate in budget discussions for all areas of the budget except for the line item that includes my wife's position. And I am able to participate in voting for the overall budget. Additionally, I can participate in other policy discussions that relate to Memorial or the school system at large, fully provided I file a conflict of interest disclosure with the town clerks and announce verbally before those discussions come up at meetings my disclosure, my conflict.
Okay, great. Either Jim, did you want to comment at all on that particular question? You have an opportunity to, if you wish to, but. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
To her point, I agree, and I support your answer. To be fair, at the budget hearing, We assessed, we made, I think, 6 motions back to back to back to back to back, which does not follow Robert's rules in it. And then there was a single voice vote on 6 expenditures. Typically, you always roll call vote on expenditures. You don't make 6 motions, and if you do, you vote on every single motion. This is how you run a committee. So you wouldn't be able to actually participate in that vote done in that manner.
Okay. Sure, but let me give Jim an opportunity if he wishes to. Jim, do you want to come? Are you all set? Okay, great. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, that's correct. The way that the budget is currently voted on does not follow the State Ethics Commission guidelines for a committee member who has a conflict such as I do. I have talked to both Vicki Ludwigson and Phil DeZutter, who are the other 2 Upton members of the committee, and they informed me that the school committee would be willing to change the way that they vote on budgets in order to maximize my participation in that process.
Thank you. Okay,
Can I comment on?
You've got 30 seconds, yes.
Sure. I'm not sure I understand what you mean when you said you've already talked to committee members and they said they would accommodate or change. What does that mean?
Well,
exactly.
We don't have questions back and forth. If you want to comment on his comment, you could do that, but you can't ask a direct
I can't.
question. No,
All
that's
right.
not how we do it.
All
Sorry.
right. Well, maybe someone else can answer.
Okay, next question. Anybody for the Board of Health? Huh? No. Clean water, clean air.
Here's my question for the Board of Health. Could you please talk about briefly your perspectives and what perspective it is that you would be bringing to the board if elected?
Okay, Ted, we'll start with you on this one, okay?
Well, I believe that being on the board for the past 3 years and have been on the board previously, that experience matters. And with the issues that are coming up before the town with building and possibly reoccurrence of the virus, which we hope not, I just think that I do my best for every board I'm on and for the best for the town.
Okay. Carol.
The perspective, I'm bringing a perspective from obviously a healthcare background. So I've been focused on general health of my patients and obviously the public. So in Upton, putting Upton's health first and following the data, following the science, being open to new ideas, creative ways to get around problems that we come across, and just bringing that background that I have in healthcare to the board to benefit the town.
Okay, great. Good. Thank you, Mrs. Simons, for asking that question. Very good. Yes, Margaret.
So I'll ask a follow-up for the Board of Health.
Sure.
And that is, what is your perspective on mosquito-borne illness and mosquito control approaches?
Okay, so Carol, you can go first on this one.
Certainly, yeah. Thank you for the question. So mosquito-borne illness, especially, in our area, particularly West Nile, and in the last several years, we've had the Triple E outbreak that has been going on. So that's something that I've always kept a close eye on for myself, my family, and friends, and my patients. But, in regard to mosquito spraying and the mosquito control, I know that Upton created a mosquito control board to look into the data and pile and so that make an informed decision for the town what's right for the town. So I would really, because we have that control board looking into that, definitely finding.
Great. Ted?
I was the Upton Board of Health's member of the Mosquito Control Board this year. I believe that the board itself was not in favor of it. We think that anybody that owns property at least should be able to spray your own property. we are, to a certain extent, overruled by the state on a lot of stuff. And if they decide to spray, they have to determine whether we're going to opt out.
More questions? Doing pretty good. It's just after 8 o'clock, but, doing all right. Sure, go ahead. Who's it for?
This is the school committee, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. No, that's okay. Good.
Questions, any answers. I'm interested in, so I emailed you guys these themes about what the parents are talking about that concerns them. So I would like to know, like, as far as the cornerstone of your platform, as far as that goes, so like finance, chapter 70, chapter 20, where, the state is not giving the district the same amount of money as the years go by. So taxpayers are paying more money. Do you have anything to say on that, or any kind of initiative you could try to implement? There are like regional school district groups in the state to represent rural community like ours. We don't have much representation. And then I'm also interested in your opinion on, like, our middle school building needs a lot of help. We have MISCO members here who volunteer their time, but I understand that there's the chapter budget allocation is going to be coming up in 2024. Do you have any opinions on that?
Great. Thank you very much.
Right,
okay. Jim Forkey, you haven't spoken for us for a while, so go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, so as I mentioned, responsibility and transparency is hugely important and a cornerstone to my platform. When it comes to state funding and providing funding to the district from the state, I think, again, it's easy to want more money, but you can't plan on that money. That doesn't mean that we can't work to try to get more funding. I think it requires reaching out to other districts that are similar to our situation, like Grafton, like Hopedale and Sutton and Uxbridge and these other towns that don't have significant commercial zoning and which is a big factor into the amount of state funding you get, to try to modify the algorithm for our kinds of districts. But you can't plan on that money. You have to budget accordingly and do the best you can with what you have.
Okay, great. Jim, next.
I agree with a lot of that. And when I get in, it's important for me when looking at the budget, it's not just the lines, but what's filling that bucket, what's in that line. That's where we got to get the transparency and the responsibility going. If we are not getting all the state funding or other funding that we need, I would be more than happy to advocate for all of us. And people around town that may have met me will know that I don't give up very easily when I believe in something. So if we need someone to go pound on doors and start hitting up state legislatures, you got your guy. I'll park on their lawn until I can get their attention. As far as MISCO goes, it's a tough topic. I mean, it was a long time coming, and unfortunately, it hasn't got the attention it deserves as far as upkeeping a facility. Now it's in a position where it's costly, right, to get it done. But we have to come up with a plan. We have to come up with a short-term plan for MISCO, and we have to come up with a long-term plan because you're not going to stay in that building forever. And then those get difficult. They're going to take time, and that's when you got to start looking at proposals and see what everything's going to cost so you can go advocate for the money. The one thing I will say that I feel is disappointing, one of the things that we're looking at right now, everybody's looking at, is the test scores at MISCO. They're a little bit lower than the other schools, and they're all pretty much trending in the wrong direction, but MISCO is standing out as trending worse. I'm here to say that you fix the bathrooms in MISCO, and I bet you gain 5 points.
Wrap it up. Okay, thank you.
Atmosphere matters.
Matt, you last one to speak on this one?
So the reality is that the state funding has been declining, and it's probably not going to change. We should definitely be communicating that reality with our state representatives and having them advocate on our behalf to change it. But in the meantime, we need to work with the assumption that it's going to continue to decline until it gets to, the steady state. And so the school committee needs to work within that reality, needs to budget appropriately, and not give back any of the. We have to work to not give back the gains that we've made over the last 5-6 years. One way that we can do that is through grants. I've been listening to school committee meetings the last 6 months or so, and one thing I hear a lot is oh, we're funding this initiative through this grant. Oh, we're funding this initiative through these grants. This initiative not paid for at all by towns, and I think we should continue to do that as widely as we can to take advantage of those grants where we can. As for MISCO. I have younger children in the district. I've never actually, I haven't been to MISCO yet, but I have heard that it is, not the nicest building in the district. I'm not a builder, and so I don't really know. I won't come to any preconceived notions on what we need to do with MISCO. But when the time comes, I will study hard and listen to the advice of people who know better than I do as to what the best course of action for addressing that would be.
Ben, how you doing down there? You're still here. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. The trust fund guy is still here, everybody. I just want you to know that. Okay. Next. Oh, Mr. Simus is getting up. Well, you never know. You might have a question coming your way.
Ken, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not asking a question. This is a question for the select board candidates. Could you please share your take on the downtown vision that was put together, the plan and the vision that's been shared and that's been being worked towards, as well as your perspective on the progress that's being made, good or bad, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Laura, you're first on this one. So, yep.
Thank you. I think we're well underway. The building is going up. Rushford & Son is doing amazing. Personally, I'm not thrilled that the town wants to put the state wants to put a rotary. I think it's going to be a death trap. I do understand the Grove Street Bridge is in extreme disrepair, and the state has threatened to close it. I'd like to see the town use some of the American Rescue Plan money to help fix it. If we close Grove Street, it's going to be I live on Grove Street. All of those trucks that go up and down on a daily basis, if the state closes it, I think it's going to severely, negatively impact our downtown. So I'd like to see that fixed. Thank you.
Okay, great. Maureen?
I would agree with Laura on some of her points. I think the EDC is moving forward, and their vision is to stay with mixed use and a little retail, maybe apartments, and keeping within the character of the town. I worked with the EDC committee on the RFP. I thought it was a great RFP, but we have a little bit more work to do it, and hopefully that'll be going out soon, and I would support that 100%.
Okay. Any other questions? Madam Town Clerk.
So this was a question that was received from someone that is at home, so I think
I understand. Go ahead.
Okay. And this is a Board of Health, specifically, Ms. Jolly, what do you think might be the benefits of having a person with a health and medical background on the Board of Health, and what are some things you would like to do if you are elected to this position?
Okay, thank you. Farrell, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for that question. Well, I think the benefit of having somebody with a healthcare background is, that's been my focus for many, many years, is how to better health and well-being. And I am a data-driven science person, so I know how to use my resources. I know how to make decisions for my patients, and I would, utilize that to the well-being of Upton. Now, understanding that the Board of Health has a very wide berth. They cover a lot of topics that aren't necessarily directly healthcare related. Certainly, understanding that and for that end, I would be just an open book for learning and doing the best for the town with helping to make decisions on the board. So that's, yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay. Ted, did you want to respond to that at all, or it's up to you? You don't have to, but you have the opportunity to. No? Okay, that's fine. Good. Okay. How are we doing here? A couple more? Go ahead. Whoa! Yeah, I don't know.
My question is for Mr. Glowacki.
All right, yay.
Anyone else who wants to speak to the trust fund? Do you see any changes that need to be done within the trust fund commission, or do you see any issue with the way the trust fund is currently being managed by the commission and the way it's being administrated by the Board of Selectmen?
Okay.
Thank you.
You're on.
Actually, it's been a pretty good group that we almost always agreed with what the financial advisor, which is RBC Dane. Paul McDonough is our advisor. And we've always come to a mutual agreement between all three of us. But I will tell you, add to that and tell you what my agenda is. And that is, there's two parts to it. One is the safety of the money, and the second is the maximum returns that we have. And I think all the members have felt that way since I've been there for those 23 years. So I hope that answers your question.
Great. Okay, thank you. All right. Doing pretty good. We've had a lot of good questions. If there's a few more, that's fine. But if not, it's okay to wrap things up now if it seems like we're ready to do that. But, you know, I saw Mr. Flaherty get, whoa. Oh, boy. I don't know. Wait a minute. Mr. Flaherty.
Quite honestly, Mr. Moderator, I don't see any humor in this at all.
Oh.
I guess my question is for the candidates for the select board. As you know, there's a dreaded acronym out there called OPEB, other post-employment benefits. For the past several years, we've been making an appropriation through the line item. And additionally, we've been appropriating $100,000 a year toward the OPEB trust fund. Could you, either of you or both, give me your position on how we are continuing to fund the OPEB? And if you think we should change it, how should we change it?
Okay. Great. You're up first on that one.
Besides the funding that we appropriate, the $100,000, any new employee coming into town now has to pay a percentage of their pay towards the other post-employee benefits. I don't know if we'll ever catch up. We're out, I think it's around $6 million. But the state has not mandated any different scenarios, just that people should put aside. There are very few towns that have paid their other post-employee benefits. And we don't know what the state is going to do. It's been there for, I don't know, 10 years. And they haven't mandated anything yet. That's not to say it couldn't happen. But we are providing $100,000 a year plus all the new employees paying into their own OPEB.
Mr. Flaherty, I love your questions. They're extremely specific. And as a member of town government, I would probably be more informed to be able to answer them. As a citizen in the town, I know we've discussed retirement benefits, and it's always, OPEB is always an issue. I don't think I have the answer to that. I don't know enough about it. I would trust the people in the finance and, as Maureen said, in the state for guidance, but I cannot answer that intelligently right now.
That was an honest answer.
So,
that's me.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Oh, boy. We're just getting started, folks.
From the
Okay.
beginning. For the select board candidates, we have some major capital projects coming in the next 10 years. We've heard about MISCO. We know we need a DPW facility. We generously received a piece of land from Harvey Grass to recreation. Our water and sewer infrastructure is quite old. The Grove Street Bridge might need to be replaced. What would be your number one capital priority during the next 3 years?
Okay. Laura, you're first on this one.
You have a lot of good points. I don't know. I know there's a lot of talk about purchasing the Fowler and mechanic, and I know the owners have money. I do think we're being reactionary. I think we have to prioritize, and I don't know how best to do that. We've been putting fires out for many years as they happen, and we really do need to get more long-term planning and more long-term funding. The problem is as the prices escalate and the taxes escalate, we're a residential-based town. We have no other source of income. So I can't answer that as well.
All right.
The MISCO school, I've been through their budget. They do have a maintenance plan every year. The 2023 budget has some roofs and air conditioning units and several things in there. So that's their priority. We can't, as far as prioritizing, until they bring something forward to the Board of Selectmen for through the budget process for annual town meeting. I would like to prioritize the bridge because I don't want to fall through it. I saw pictures of it. The water sewer infrastructure, our ARP money, I know they were looking for some of the ARP money. We haven't voted anything yet, but he's got about $1.4 million that he would like to put into the sewer treatment plant. The DPW project, I do support that because they're going to do that in a phased fashion, and I think that would be a priority in my case because of the way in the way the facility is now. It's really needs an upgrade. So I would definitely prioritize that. Use the ARP money for the sewer treatment plant and maybe for the bridge reconstruction. Like I said, MISCO has to bring something forward to the selectmen to do anything with that.
All right. How are we doing here? Maybe one more.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator, will you be taking?
Apologize. Mr. Flaherty, there's certainly, I have nothing but respect for you as a person, as a business owner, as one of my key mentors, and a public servant for the past many, many years. So thank you. My question is for the school committee candidates. Can you tell me how you feel about, or tell people how you feel about using Proposition 2.5 overrides to fund the schools? Thanks.
Okay. Jim, why don't you go first on this one?
I'm not a big fan of those. I believe that when we have to go down that path, that if we haven't exhausted all the resources. If I'm not mistaken, you please correct me if I'm wrong, that takes away from the town budget, correct, overall? I'm not sure. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it a little bit more. But I could tell you as a new resident, that was the first thing you guys hit me with. I moved to Upton thinking, I'm going to have great schools and low taxes. And that was the first thing that came through was, hey, we got the override coming. So when we need to do that, again, there has to be something that comes along with it. What I see is, hey, we ran short, we need more money. I think a lot of the residential taxpayers would be more apt to be agreeable to those if, you know, you be more transparent and be more detailed on how the shortfall came and how we're going to have to get out of it. So hopefully that answered the question.
Thank you. Matt, going next on that one.
Yeah, so. Hello? Yeah, so obviously no one likes to raise their taxes more than, you know, people would prefer to have their taxes go up by less than by more. And I, you know, understand that, and I would prefer to do that too. At the end of the day, the Prop 2.5 is decided by the select board, not by the school committee. The school committee submits a budget, and if we, you know, the school committee should try to keep, it needs to keep the budget in check as best they can, but costs are rising. Health insurance is going up faster than 2.5%. You know, the transportation into and out of transporting students out of the district who need busing out is something that's largely outside of the school committee's control. There's lots of things that go into that the school committee doesn't have the most fine-grained control over. And at the end of the day, I would rather not do a Prop 2.5 override, but I would also don't want our schools to see our schools go backwards.
Jim?
Yeah, I think this comes back to the point I made at the beginning of my introduction. I think right now the finance committee for the school committee does not review the budget in depth enough to prevent Prop 2.5. I think they gloss over it quickly and assess the cost. And the towns assume that the school committee have done their due diligence and approve and roll with the Prop 2.5 if they have to. And that's why we should have more conversations around where we are overspending and where we are underspending. We should look at other towns and where they spend money and compare it to where we spend money, and then understand where we can make some cuts to avoid Prop 2.5s. Because the reality is, when the economy is as good as it is, it's very easy to be fiscally responsible. That's the truth of it. It's when times are tough that it becomes difficult. And so we need to be far more diligent with our money. And the stats show it, right? Grafton spends less and gets more. So we can spend less and get more. Or we can spend the same and get significantly more. We just have to identify those areas. And if we bring in a tool to help us do that, we can identify those areas, make the changes, and reap the benefits. It's very low risk, very low cost, and high reward.
Okay, so it's 8:30, all right, and we're still going to wrap things up with respect to closing statements. I do want to ask one final question. So unless there's some critical question out there, now might not be a bad time to wrap things up. Are you folks all set with that out there, do you think? Okay, fine.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator, will you be taking,
all of one question? Okay, and if you've seen these things before, you probably know what the question is. No trick questions. So here it is. Think about your opponent or opponents. Tell me something positive about them that you've learned about them going through this campaign. Okay, so I want to start on the outside and work our way in. So Board of Health, I don't know if you guys wanted to go first on that. Tell me something positive about your opponent. 30 seconds or so. Who wants to go first? Farrell, go ahead.
Okay. This is my first chance to actually meet Ted. And that's been nice. He obviously has been doing this and has experience, and I appreciated his answers to the questions tonight. So I appreciate those insights and identify his experience.
Okay, great. Thank you. Ted, you want to say anything about Farrell? You learned about her?
I'm in the same position. I have not met her before. I understand that she has a great medical background, and it could possibly help the Board of Health.
Thank you. School committee, it's a little bit more tricky for you guys because you got two folks you'd be talking about, but who wants to take a first shot at it? Jim,
I'll go first. What I've learned is Mr. Forkey, very knowledgeable individual. Appreciate everything that he's been bringing. And I can tell, excuse me, Mr. Matt is very passionate about his schools and how he wants his community to go. So great. Good job, guys.
Thank you. Okay, who wants to go next?
I'll also reiterate that Mr. Forkey has clearly done his research and is very, very knowledgeable and has definitely taken the time to do that. As for Mr. Ferenzi, I've just met him. I guess I met him last week for the first time, and he also seems like someone who is definitely willing to listen to any voices that'll come to him and weigh their viewpoints in making decisions.
Great. Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't had too much opportunity to work with the other Jim F. But we sat down at a CPAC event, and everybody, he can certainly command a room. He speaks very well, and so I can respect that from him. Before, when I first started running for school committee and found out Matt was running, I actually reached out to him, and we sat down and had a drink. And the reality is our platforms are very similar. And we're both software engineers. We both follow the science. I mean, we both have young kids in the district. And so I think the difference between us, he's certainly a more patient person, I think. I tend to speak my mind quite quickly. And so I can certainly respect that about him.
Great. Okay. So, excuse me?
How come I get to be the other Jim F? Why can't you be the other Jim F?
Okay. All right. Ladies, who wants to go first? You got the mic. Go ahead, Maureen. Just some of the power tonight. Go ahead.
This is the first time I've met Laura, and I find her very honest in answering her questions, and I think she's willing to put the work forward.
Great. Okay, Laura?
Also, this is the first time I've met Maureen, and I love her sense of humor. And she obviously has many years of experience, but I think overall, raising 9 children, she must have amazing patience and organizational skills. My hat is off to you. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me just make one final comment before they all make their final comments. This isn't easy to do, to run for office. It has never been easy to do. In this day and age, it is especially more difficult. And people have talked about this, whatever you want to call it, the media that's out there. It makes the game a whole lot different. It makes it that much more difficult for all of you to come up here and run. And the one thing I want to say is this. 4 of you in a couple of weeks will be very, very happy, okay, because you've won an election. The others of you will be disappointed. I want to ask those of you who are going to be disappointed, please continue to consider to run for office again or consider to volunteer for a position. Because one of the things I have noticed over my 30 years here, someone runs for office, they don't get elected, and sometimes, unfortunately, we don't hear from them again because it is a hard thing to take and to accept. But please consider that if you're not one of the people who's happy in a couple of weeks. I just want you to think about that because we need you to continue to help out. Now, having said that, closing statements. Okay, so let me get my other sheet of paper out so I remember who's going to close first. And we'll start with the Board of Health. And here, Carol, you're going to start with closing statements. Go ahead.
Closing statement sounds so formal. I really don't have any. I don't have any official closing statements. I do really appreciate the opportunity to run for the Board of Health and to have the opportunity to potentially represent Upton in that way. I love this town. We just lucked out when we found our home, and you know, I want to be able to help out in this town. And I appreciate being here, and I will certainly, if I'm elected, bring open, fresh perspective,
be willing to learn and grow into this role.
Great, thank you. Ted?
I'd like to use a couple of seconds here to thank the Bloomer Girls for presenting this thing tonight. I'd also like to make a couple of quick public service announcements. One is Hazardous Waste Day will be July 9th. The second one is it's not the Board of Health's fault, but we are having a problem with the trash bags. The yellow bags will not be available until probably mid-July, but we do have blue bags available. As far as closing statement, I believe that the Board of Health has been doing a great job. I think that we'll be able to do a good job for, the foreseeable future. And I would appreciate your vote on May 10th.
Thank you. Okay, school committee, we have Jim Forkey is going to go first.
Sure. So I'm just going to reiterate what I've kind of said throughout the evening. We spend more than Grafton, and we get less. Bigger classes, identical performance. I didn't cherry pick Grafton. Could have used Hopkinton or Westboro, but they have commercial zoning that impacts their school budget. We don't have representation for student support services on the school committee, and yet it represents 24% of our budget. DESE gives us a very low accountability score. Our bar was they didn't recommend services or intervention. That's not the bar we should have. We need to raise the bar and say we want to be in the top 20%, the top 10% in the state. That's the bar that we should set. We shouldn't be able to stumble over the bar. We should have to jump. And if you give me the opportunity, I will set that bar. I will drive progress, accountability, and transparency.
Okay, thank you. Next is Matt. You're next.
So yeah, I would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I've found this discussion very interesting, very worthwhile. One thing that I would continue to do, elected or not, is I will definitely continue to attend school committee meetings, the various parent advisory councils, PTO meetings, stuff like that. I found that to be very interesting, and elected or not, I'm going to commit to making a regular appearance at those type of meetings, just to continue to do the best that we can do for the students in this town in the school district. And I hope you'll consider voting for me on May 10th. Thank you.
Okay, so Jim Ferenzi, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good. I wanted to make sure I got that one right. Go ahead.
Again, I'd like to reiterate, appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Appreciate the ladies for putting this on for us. It's very important. I'm going to close with, no matter who you vote for, please get out there and vote. All right, that is going to be the most important thing. You have a voice, make sure you use it. When I look at our school committee, I see a lack of diversity. And I mean diversity of thought. I see more following than I see leadership. I see lack of ambition. I can bring change to those. I'm a strong leader. I have a very well diverse thought process. I do not favor one side or the other. And I have the ability to ask the right questions that will lead to the answers to the problems that we go forward with. So, appreciate your time. Hopefully, I answered all your questions. Right, I guess, for lack of a better term. And if I do not win in 2 weeks, I won't be sad, because you guys aren't going to get rid of me that easy. This is going to be my town, so I want to help be part of the future, and I'm telling you I can. Appreciate it.
So before we get to the Board of Selectmen, Ken, do you have any closing statements you want to make? It's up to you. Okay, go ahead.
I'm experienced, I'm ready, willing, and able, and I humbly ask for your vote next week. Thank you and good night.
All right, thank you. Okay, good. So Board of Selectmen, I want to make sure I get, Laura, you're going to go first, and Maureen, you're going to go second. Okay, good.
Once again, thank everyone for coming out, and I do also hope people vote and stay involved. This is your government. I'd like to see a couple of things. I'd like to see the town manager be more active and put out clear and concise information on a weekly basis so all residents can easily follow it. I'd like to purchase the Mechanic Fowler Street property, and I want to make sure we purchase it correctly. We're growing. We may need a parcel of that for a building in the future. I don't know if everyone knows. Kevin Meehan just bought 112 through 114 and 2 Maple Ave. That's our post office. If we need a place for a school, a middle school, a building, I'd like to be able to purchase it so that we can possibly use some of it in the future. I'd like to see some of the people who've been here for generations stay here. I don't think I have a solution, but the problem is we really need to look at our housing. It's a shame to me that people who've raised their families, been here for multiple generations, are selling because they can't afford to stay. Thank everyone for coming out. I really would appreciate your vote. I don't have a ton of town experience, but I'm willing to learn. Thank you.
I would like to also thank the Bloomer Girls for this evening and everyone that's come out. I would like to continue working for the town with all the projects and issues going forward. I think I can be objective and try and move the town forward in a fiscally responsible way. And I seek your vote at the annual election on May 10th. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So, as has been said, and I want to just say this right now, Bloomer Girls, thank you all so much for putting this together. Appreciate it. Great job. Okay. And it's 8:43. I think we're done. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming, and thanks at home for watching. Great. You're very welcome. Yeah, thank you.